All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Canadian Quidditch Quarantine Club podcast. This is part 1 of 2. My name is Gabe. We have Brian and Nate also as our co-hosts. And today we have 2 special guests. For episode, we're going to be talking about the athletic side of Quidditch. Obviously, Quidditch had its sort of start in Harry Potter. So we're going to kind of talk about sort of tackling and sort of like the athletics side, the more athletic side of the game. So for our guests, we have Michael Beda and Hailey Yhap. How's it going, guys?
Hello. Thanks for having us.
No problem. So I guess we'll just start with obviously we all know you guys, but if you want to just kind of quickly go a quick intro about yourself, where you started Quidditch, maybe some past teams you played for, a little bit of sporting background, just to kind of introduce yourself to everyone. We'll start with Beda.
Sounds good. Yes, I was born and raised in Timmins, Ontario, way up north. So a good 8-hour drive north of Toronto, and kind of same from Ottawa from a different standpoint. I went to Queens starting in 2013 and began my Quidditch career there for all 4 years of my undergrad. And then I moved to Toronto after I graduated 3 years ago now, I guess, in 2017. And I've spent the last 3 seasons playing for Valhalla. And then I guess I dabbled a little bit with QC East for Team Canada at the Pan Am Games last year. But aside from that, just Valhalla and Queens for QC League play.
Nice. Awesome. And then, Yhap, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm Hailey. I'm from Ottawa, born and raised. I also went to Queens and played on their team for my undergrad for 4 years until from 2014 to 2018. And then I came to Ottawa U to do my master's. And at that point, I started up a Quidditch community team and played for the Ottawa Otters for a year. And this past season, I played with Carleton. So I've been around the block. And then in the summertime, I've played with the MLQ team in Ottawa, known as the Black Bears, and still continuing to play with them, hopefully this summer, as well as with TC practice team, and was with Beda in Pan Am last summer.
Awesome. Great start. So we'll kind of transition then. So with the podcast, we like to kind of have a main discussion. So obviously the main discussion for this podcast, or this episode, is going to be the athletic side, or the physical side of Quidditch. So like I said, everyone sort of thinks when they think of Quidditch, they think of Harry Potter for the most part. But I think, I guess you could say worldwide, Quidditch is kind of shifting away, especially in the States and Europe, and even Canada as well. It's kind of shifting away from sort of that Harry Potter novelty aspect and more towards legitimate sport, I guess you could say. So to start, maybe you guys can talk about maybe the sports you started before you got into Quidditch. So what sports you played in high school, or even during university outside of Quidditch, and then maybe how those sports might have helped you out in playing Quidditch. So we'll start with the app or Beda, whoever wants to go first. It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it, Hailey, if you like.
Okay, sure. So played a lot of different sports throughout elementary school and high school. So a little bit of field hockey, some soccer, some volleyball. Dabbled in cross-country skiing. That was interesting. So basically I've tried any sport made available to me in my community for intramurals or for sports teams at schools. And I find that with Quidditch, it's really great because it encompasses a lot of those different sports, and lots of the skills you've learned in other sports that are more traditional can really be transferred over. So things like hand-eye coordination, spatial awareness, positioning, endurance, any kind of conditioning training you've done in the past is really great, especially since it's a pretty heavy running sport. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would echo that. For the most part, I was very active growing up throughout all forms of high school and kind of community sports. I played a lot of basketball and soccer and football and volleyball, and I'd run track from time to time. I would specialize in kind of jumping events, long and triple jump. So with basketball and soccer, I was a goalkeeper. I would like to use my vertical abilities whenever I could, and my hands. I was a wide receiver in football, so I was big on the catching game. So it kind of really transcended into chasing down the stretch. Not many people know, when I went to Queens, or in the summer before I started at Queens, I wanted to try out for the varsity soccer team as a goalkeeper. And I had sent coach some tape, and we were kind of in communication throughout the summer. And then about a week before tryouts, I was telling him I was coming down from Timmins. And he said, you know what, we have 4 or 5 goalkeepers. It's not looking so good for you right now if you wanted to just save the trip. And that was kind of a bummer to hear, but at the same time, I'm glad that I didn't really delve into any varsity sports in my time there, because I definitely wanted to have that social aspect of being around the community and university and really get my whole fill of it. But I also wanted something more challenging than just an intramural sport. And lo and behold, Quidditch was just the perfect niche to like sneak into there. That was way above intramurals, but not at that committed varsity level that I was so used to playing. So I think that it couldn't have been a better fit like a glove.
So like well, as far as gloves, like that's basically where you like with football and goalkeeping. That's basically where you develop your like QC famous like gecko hands that just basically grip on anything. Like I've seen you at practices or like games, and this is random times I've seen a ball just kind of like fly through the air. Your hand just shoots up, and then it's like your hand comes back down, and the ball is in the hand. Apparently, with no like knockback, there's no like kind of hesitation. It's crazy. Like you too, Hailey. Like you're one of the smaller like chasers, like even amongst females, and like I've seen you just like roll off tackles and like just take hits. I guess probably similarly that you would have in like field hockey, and you can kind of just see that like athletic ability, regardless of whatever sport we've all kind of played or come from, translate so easily to a sport that started like 12, 13 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned the trying out for a varsity team Beda at Queens, because I actually did the same thing before I finished. Yeah, I actually went to the field hockey tryouts in August, so right before my first year, and made a couple of the rounds. I think I got to the second or third round, which was like the final round for selecting for the team. And then there were some things that were obviously going on behind the scenes. And there was the things that were said by the coaches and made you believe that you were going to be on the team, but you weren't in the end. So I ended up getting cut from that and thought, oh, it's fine. I'm not going to play sports in my first year. I'll settle in and it'll be all right. And then the first 2 weeks or so, I was getting ready and I was like, nope, gotta join a team. This is not going to work. So, and like you, yeah, intramurals wouldn't have been enough. So I was glad that Quidditch ended up working out, which was nice.
How'd you guys end up finding like or hearing about Quidditch on campus? Like when you guys attended the tryouts that first year?
Well, Queens, they do a stand-up job of their whole orientation week. You know, you have a couple days. I know it's different now. There's a new kind of procedure because they have that fall reading week now. But at least when I started my first year, we had a full 8 days to settle in before classes. A few days were kind of residence-based activities, and then the other 4 or 5 days were all kind of faculty-based. But nonetheless, they get everybody through one of the days in orientation. There was a Queens in a Park event where one of the parks just on the outskirts of campus, they would have their booths set up of all the different clubs through any means. Like it could be the juggling club, the trumpet club, what have you. And I remember the first time I had ever heard of Quidditch being played at university and college campuses was in Maclean's magazine. And at the time, the game had only been around for fewer than 5 years for sure. I think it was only the third year of Quidditch existing in Canada, for that matter. This is like 2013-ish. And their display was so extravagant. They had like the hoop set up and they really well decor. The colors, the jerseys at the time were really fantastic as well. Those kind of 3/4 sleeves that they got to bring back. Queens, you got to bring those back. I just remember walking through the park that day and it caught my eye and I'm like, this is what I read about. I want to learn more. And they had a fantastic executive at the time that got me the tryout information. They had like an open day before the tryouts just to see what it was all about. And that was fantastic. So I went back for more the following week for the tryouts. Same kind of policy that they have now. I know you have to go to like 2 of the 4 throughout the weekend. That was how I first got started.
Sure, nice.
I'd say mine was pretty similar experience. It was a different event, but same idea. It was again like a clubs fair, but it was in the gym area. And again, they had their fancy booth. No hoops since it was inside, but like with the little turrets that were tricolor. And I'm pretty sure I remember meeting Lyndon there, and he just kind of like popped out and started talking to me, and I was like, oh, what is, because I was trying to look to see what the booth was about, and then he just started talking, and I was like, okay, cool. So it's kind of funny. They were a pretty enthusiastic crew. So it was nice to be able to have like a friendly conversation with them and just kind of gauge what was going on. A little bit hard to understand since you really didn't know what it was about until you showed up to the tryout. But I had heard about it briefly in high school. Someone had mentioned, like, in our grade 12 year, oh yeah, like I want to go to Carleton because they have a Quidditch team. And I was like, what's that? And they told me about it, and I was like, oh, that's neat. So it was cool seeing it at Queens at one of the booths, and you're like, oh, this is a thing. All right.
Nice.
So yeah, like Guelph is very similar in that way. Like I remember, so when I went to school, like my first year I lived on campus, but I went home every single weekend to work, and like I only lived 45 minutes away, so it was like quick bus ride every Friday, drive back every Sunday, and it's funny because like I remember walking back like toward my res on certain like evenings, and I'd see these people out in the distance like on the quad being like playing this crazy sport with hoops and balls flying everywhere, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And yeah, eventually I was just like, okay, like cool, that's a thing. I ended up looking up and was like, cool, Quidditch, that exists. I then lived like back at home and commuted for 2 years, and like when I moved back to campus in fourth year, I was like, oh, maybe I try out for it, maybe I don't, whatever. And I applied for a job as a lifeguard, and I ended up getting like cut from that in like one of the final things. And then I was like, well, screw it, not having a job, I'm gonna go play random sport for whatever like free time I have now. And like it's such a weird kind of like roping through of like you maybe have seen it like in high school or another year of just like random video on YouTube, random conversation in the lunchroom, and it randomly like sticks with you, and then all of a sudden you see it in person, you're like, oh, maybe we try that. And then there's the whole athletic side, which is a whole another story to it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, no, I think with Quidditch, I remember like when I first got recruited, it was like I originally did it like kind of as a joke thing. Like I grew up playing like competitive soccer, and like I didn't necessarily commit as far as you Beda in terms of like trying out for like the varsity team, but I was like I wanted to play some sort of competitive sport. But like also like with Queens, they have like the mini streams, which is like these like strength and conditioning and athletic therapy. And I heard that like you can't really do varsity sports and that as well. So I kind of decided, you know what, I'll just focus on like more strength and conditioning or whatever and do that. But then when I was in the gym, I saw Kyle, and like I kind of like when I first saw the booth, because like Queens does a really good job with it, because they have like Yhap was saying with those like little like turd things that I don't, who made those anyways? Like, do we know who made those?
No idea.
No idea.
I wish I knew.
Yeah,
they only could have been around for no more than a year or two. Yeah,
They're so old.
They've been around so long, but they're really, really good. Shout out whoever made them; they're awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I was walking by the booth, and like I kind of like did like looking back, I did what like everyone else you see now that does it, is like they kind of like do that little like when you see the booth, you walk like by it, but you walk on kind of like an arc, or you walk on around. You're like kind of like oh, and you like walk around instead of like actually walking like straight across of it. And then Kyle just kind of looked at me, and I was just like, what is this? And he explained it, and I kind of like, I did it originally as a joke. And I remember my first tryout, because everyone on the team that was there thought like I wasn't come back. But I remember because they were all saying like, oh, we didn't think you were going to come back. It's like, well, I thought we were only supposed to come to 2 tryouts, and I went to 3. But Queens has 4, so they all thought because I missed the second one I wasn't going to come back. But it was really funny. But you know, like when it comes to recruitment, I think Queens is pretty good when it comes to like recruiting players and whatnot. But what did you see what like Carleton does? Like, is there anything Yhap that like Carleton does that's maybe a little bit different? Like, how do they?
I wasn't. I didn't want to be part of an exec this year, so I kind of was more hands off and didn't really like help out in that way very much. At the beginning of the year, we were still pulling for Otters, hopefully to come back, but with everything going on, it just didn't happen. So at the beginning of this, or I guess prior to the beginning of the season, when they were trying to recruit, I did a little recruitment with Carleton, like, but as a part of the Otters representation, sort of, and it was like a joint fun day. But the problem that they have is the field that they use at Brewer Park is very hidden. Mm-hmm. So, because I think most of you have been to Brewer Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where we played, I don't know if was it this year or I think it was last year, where we played at Brewer Park. You know, when you go in, there's like the parking lot, and you see like the diamond baseball field, and you can see all those fields. And we played out in the open there. well, that's not where they play when they have their practices and when they did their little trout recruitment. It's actually like behind the bushes. There's more fields, and so they're back there. So if you like kind of like walk around that park, it's really hard to see them and to just stop by and be like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing?"
Is it like the infamous mud pits of 2017?
Yes, it's there. That's where they had their. So it's really hard because there's not like anywhere for them to. Like, you have to stand at the bottom of the path to flag people down. So it's a bit hidden. I'm not really sure recruitment wise. I think they do similar stuff to Queens, like club wise, but I don't know to what extent since I didn't really participate. So I'm not really sure. That was the only one recruitment thing I sort of did halvesies with them for. So.
Fair enough. What about Valhalla Beta? Like, what is it like? Obviously, like being a community team, you guys don't have like some of like the benefits of like obviously having like orientation week. That's huge for recruitment for like universities. But like, how does it? I don't know if you're like been part of exec or if there's exec with Valhalla, but like, how do they kind of reach out within the community? Obviously, they also get like people coming from universities and whatnot. But how do they do like recruitment outside of like the university players that have kind of graduated?
Well, that's the thing is like because. It's so centric to downtown Toronto, and as the more and more community teams that pop up and club teams that pop up, the more the merrier. Yeah. But when it comes to at the time when I joined a few years ago, it was just kind of they were coming into their own. They were coming into their own dominance. I knew I was going to live downtown Toronto. It seemed to be the perfect fit, and it was just as simple as just asking Atana and Yara for trout information, and we kind of kept in touch over the summer. I was never able to play any fantasy tournaments in any summer. While I was still enrolled at Queens because I just spent all my summers in Timmins, just so far away. I was never part of any fantasy, none of the Canada Day stuff. So I kind of just kept in touch with them over the summer. So I don't know if my perspective is fairly unique just because I was coming from a strange part of the province to relocate and start playing with a new team. But I know that just through the community, a lot of people that pass through the parks where we play at Riverdale East, they have so many questions. Like it's so thought-provoking, and whether like you're an athlete or not, you have so many questions and want to understand the nuances of the game, understand where everyone's coming from to play this game together. One of the first common questions we all get is like, "Oh, are you guys all Harry Potter fans?" Right? But athletics or not, you see people from different backgrounds that are always working in the park, and we have so many like gregarious people on our team that will kind of suck them into a conversation, maybe give out a business card or two, and before you know it, they're hitting us up for kind of information on how to at least watch and maybe even suit up for a practice. Had people come and go over the years that might give it a practice or two and linger, and like that's all we can do at this point is like, especially when you're not a university that can harness people in their late 20s, even some people in their 30s that still play. It's hard to kind of get them fully on board to committing to something that we're trying to have prosper and thrive when they maybe have already settled into a job where committing for the course of a season from late August till early April isn't feasible. So that's why it's so much better to try to get them while they're young. But we see a lot of people like I've been also playing Australian Aussie rules football in some of the past couple of years in Toronto. There's a league in Ontario that is quite fun, and a lot of the guys from the team, we've told them about Quidditch time and time again because Atana will come out to these Aussie rules practices. Piot would, Lyndon's the person who got us into it. Bill, we all played this Aussie rules game, so all the Aussie boys have been coming out to practices from time to time to learn about it, and they don't stick around necessarily, but like it's very lackadaisical, the recruitment process. They can come to us, essentially. It's really not too strenuous for us to reach out. But yeah, it's much tougher, I think, for a community team than it is for a university team to try to harness commitment.
And you know what? Like, if you think about it too, right? If you just keep getting people trying it, you're going to hit on someone. And, like, if you can get that person to stay for a couple of years, like, boom, like, that's success story right there, right? So, like, I think university, you kind of aim for like the high retention people that like, hey, we really think we can. You want to get as many people interested to your tryout, and then like rather from Harry Potter or athletic side, whatever you want to like advertise to them, and then after that, it's just like, okay, who's sticking around? Okay, you got a good core, you carry it through. Like with manatees this year that we started, like. We had some people, and we're just like, okay, we need some more, and we're like credit to Sugar, credit to Christos, those people who literally just go and talk and just convince these people to come out to a tryout, a practice, a tournament, whatever. And like if you can find that little like inch to like get them hooked, like you let the rest take care of itself. And it's like that simple.
You need really good sellers.
Yes. Yeah, it's a whole other like branch of like exact
other aspect of recruitment, yeah.
That's the thing is like regardless of how you're sucked in at first, after a practice or two, like you understand the core values of what we're trying to achieve here. It's just a game. You know, we're a team, like any sport. Regardless of where you think it, like if there's a stigma about liking Harry Potter too much and you know, so be it. But after a practice or two, if you really understand what we're all about, you know, it's all about just a great group of folks that play this crazy game and we're trying to make it thrive.
Yeah. Like for me, I never played or got into Quidditch based off being a Harry Potter fan. Like I never read the books, hardly watched any of the movies. So for me, when I got recruited, I guess, it was at the Queen's like club event that was going on in the Arc. It's like the big gym inside. And I remember walking by the booth and it was Big Matt and a couple other people as well. So I asked Big Matt about it, and he was basically describing me the whole game and the whole, I guess, aspect of, I guess, the gameplay aspect of it. And just because he was like so tall and big and jacked, I figured like if a guy like him is into the sport, then it must be a legitimate sport. So it kind of encouraged me to go out to the tryouts later that week. And then once I started playing and getting familiar with the game, I definitely got hooked on it, and of course been playing ever since for 5 years now.
You know what? Guelph had the same thing in Denver. You get that big person, be like, hey, you are literally a poster board. Stand here, look athletic, and like you'll attract a certain kind of people with it. And like, I think Guelph did a good job too. Like we had Tia Julian, Sam Chomek, who like they were such like Harry Potter lovers, and there was a whole bunch of other people, obviously, but like they were on the exec. And like you can have those people sell kind of like one group of people, and then you have a couple other people who are like more athletes, and like they sell a different crowd. And it's a very like weird. The recruitment thing is so weird, but there's a way of doing it that works, and you just gotta like whatever team, you just have to find your group of people who can make it happen. And it'll be like weird conversations, but like, hey, you gotta try.
Yeah.
And I think Ethan Stern put out like a YouTube, like he had started a new like YouTube channel over the midline, and one of the episodes he had was on like recruitment and retention, and I think it was Harry Greenhouse.
Yeah.
He mentioned like an interesting approach instead of like kind of like saying like have you heard of Quidditch, or like kind of approaching it that way, because like as soon as you say Quidditch, like 9 times out of 10 someone's gonna like think about Harry Potter. But like he said, like asking the question, do you like sports? Because I would say most people have some sort of connection to sports, some like sport they enjoy playing, and then like starting the conversation from there versus just saying like, oh, like have you heard of Quidditch, or like are you interested in Quidditch? Because like you're gonna get like, especially like from a like obviously with us like it worked out just kind of like being curious about it, but like I know especially like just like trying to recruit people like that have like said like, oh yeah, I play like competitive sport and whatnot. Like if you come out and say like, oh, like, are you interested in Quidditch? Like most times they say like no, because like they don't want, especially during Frost Week. Frost Week's the best time to kind of like I don't say embarrass like someone, but like kind of like calling out a group and being like, oh, like you want to like come try out Quidditch or whatever, and they're all just like, nah, like I don't want to be like that kind of person that's like not cool or whatever. But
you know what? Frost Week's like the time when everyone's looking for like a story or something they did, and like you can rope someone in on like a Frost Week thing way easier than like 2 weeks into the semester. Like if you're like, hey, group of people, like come do this, they have nothing else to do. They're gonna get some food and hang out. Like screw it. Like I'll go play your wacky sport for like 20 minutes, see what it's about. But like yeah, during the middle of the week they're like, oh sorry, I have class, I have to go. Like it's a weird thing. And yeah, like that whole video, I know I think like one point Harry Greenhouse was like, oh, we all did like tryouts, and then they have some like big fountain in like University of Maryland, and it was like, let's all jump in the fountain. Like that's how you get like that group of people to stick. And like it's weird of like in the same way like any other sports team, like you have that camaraderie there, and like Quidditch has it as well. And it's just I think some people see it as like a Harry Potter thing, some people see it as an athletic thing, and it's a combination of both. But the sport's definitely changing from what it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago to what it is now. So.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
And I think too, like part of it, like I think maybe even MLQ could, I think would benefit the sport in terms of like having like MLQ like almost like promote the sport, or at least the league like for the summertime, because like the summertime would be a great opportunity for people to try at least try the sport without having to have a commitment of like a school team, because like that's the other thing too is that people, that's it, like it's a sport, like it's a team, but it's like it's more commitment than intramurals, and for some people that's great, but also for some people it's like, oh, I want to play sport, but I don't want to like commit like 2-3 like nights a week for practices and whatnot and doing intramurals. So like even if it was just kind of like MLQ like reaching out to the universities and being like, because I think honestly like playing Quidditch in the summer with MLQ is like a great experience, especially for me like first year. Like deciding to play with the Black Bears, even if we're that first year we got like demolished, like it was still like a really fun experience. And because the Americans are like such a top tier of sport, it's really good to see kind of how the best if you will, like how they do it and how they really adopt like the more physical side of Quidditch. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of segue into like our current like sort of tackling and like the more physical side of it, especially with like MLQ. So for those that aren't familiar with MLQ, so Major League Quidditch is a summer league. There are 15 teams now, I believe, 3 divisions, and the good thing with the MLQ is that they try to they're always trying to change like different rules and try out new things. So more recently they changed to 2-arm tackling, so that's obviously a huge debate in Quidditch. And currently QC, so Quidditch Canada, has the 1-arm tackling rule. So I wanted to see what you guys think about tackling with 1 arm, how that transition was weird. I Beda had football experience. Brian, did you play, or Nate, did you guys play football?
I played zero contact sports. My first contact sport was Quidditch, so yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, so I didn't play any contact sports either. So I guess maybe we'll start with Beda then. How did transitioning from like football with 2-arm tackling and then going to 1-arm tackling, how was that transition for you? And then have you played MLQ? No, right?
No, I've never had the privilege of playing MLQ. So I was going to ask you guys how you find it first and foremost.
Sure.
Yeah. Who wants to? Whoever goes, go first. But no, I personally, I love it. I think it's freaking unbelievable. But like, yeah, like someone else kind of want to chime in what you guys think of the 2-arm tackling.
I find that 2-arm tackling is definitely easier for the defensive side of the game. Like if you're someone who's smaller in stature and size, it's easier for you to tackle someone who's like twice your size. Perfect example would be Robin Fortune. If you ever watch your footage from MLQ, that season where we tried out the 2-arm tackling in those divisional games after we got eliminated from, I guess, the elimination bracket at the MLQ Championships. You can see how it really helps those smaller players be more of a physical presence on the defensive side of the game. And then for someone like myself who likes to drive on offense, it's definitely harder for you to break free from those tackles because it's 2 hands that the defender can use against you. So it's definitely helps, I guess, the defensive side of the game become more of a bigger aspect of the entire game or the game as a whole.
Yeah.
I've always, I was going to come into this conversation saying I'm definitely in favor of 2-arm tackling.
Yeah.
What do you find in terms of like broom positioning though? Do you find it's more dangerous to getting jabbed in the core or even worse?
I don't think so. I find playing for MLQ and being 2-arm tackled, I don't find much of a difference from being 1-arm tackled. If you know what you're doing and you're taught how to do it, then it shouldn't be a problem. It's pretty similar to when you have 1 arm. You just need to move your broom to one side of the other person's body. It's one of those things that once you do it, you don't really need to think about it. It just sort of happens. And especially for those that have a background in contact sports or tackling like football, rugby, the broom really isn't a factor if you already know how to tackle. Like if you've played Quidditch, you know how to tackle already. Moving it to the side is not really. It just kind of works out. I don't think there's many injuries either, at least not that I've seen in MLQ, where it's broom related from 2-arm tackling because you couldn't figure out the positioning.
Yeah.
I think you see more injuries from like broken brooms than you do from like someone getting speared by a broom. And like we've moved away from wooden brooms now, so that's not really an issue anymore.
Yeah. No, I think the only injuries that that I've seen from two-arm tackling is just people are able to hit harder. So the only injury that you're going to see is just people like getting hit harder and not like really like bracing properly for the hit. And that's why like it's kind of challenging in the sense that like if we go from one-arm tackling to two-arm tackling, people are going to have to start learning how to actually take a hit properly, because one arm, like very rarely do you see someone take someone down with a one-arm tackle unless it's like a falling tackle. Like I don't think I've ever seen someone like on one arm like forcefully tackle someone down. Like it's always like, I know personally, like I've always like my kind of go-to is like a falling tackle. And then with the two arm, like even with the in Quidditch with the one arm, whatever, I find that like the best way if you're gonna try to get the person down, like in a forward tackle, is like almost trying to like sneakily use your broom as like as an arm and try to do it that way. I mean, I've gotten caught, like I got caught last regionals for a two arm tackle, because technically it's not really, you're not allowed to do that, but like I try to like if I'm gonna do it, I try to like kind of sneak in the broom, and I think John was the one who gave me that tip actually, because like John's like has the rugby background, but because I never played the John,
such a cheater.
John, but I don't mean to throw him under the bus there, but no, like it's I don't know, it's definitely an educational experiment in terms of, because I think then like you're just kind of alluding to, like the big worry that everyone has is like, oh, people are gonna run and like try to jab someone with the broom, but like no one's gonna do that. Like it's just that you still have to engage with one arm. It's just a matter of kind of learning how to engage with, like we already know how to engage with one arm, hopefully, and then like learning how to like just use that second arm as like the brace and pulling back or like moving forward. So
I have thick thighs, like just squeezing the broom, like that's I just rely on that, and I just like the weird thing is it's, oh, am I just gonna like bear hug someone from the front? No, probably not, right? Like if you play, like I never played contact sports, but I've watched how much football or hockey or whatever, like you kind of have to know like how you're positioning your body. Like you don't go straight forward, like rush into someone, like it's not gonna work for the most part. Like you gotta angle yourself, get a good kind of like hold on him and bring him to the ground. So like, yeah, I still kind of like start one arm, but like I just kind of wrap that second arm around, and like I do it as well from a like perspective of my like super secret move that I've used for years. Is like you go for the one arm tackle, and then you kind of let them get by you, and they pull the quaffle back, and then you slap the quaffle out of their hands. And like I've got enough cards in my like playing career, but like if you hit it, perfectly legal, right? But if you don't, you don't.
You're in trouble.
Amen to that, brother.
Yeah, exactly, right? But like
I'm not the biggest guy, so I've never been the most solid tackler on the team for sure. So I try to use my other hand on trying to pry the ball free, and then I get flagged a lot. I get carded a lot for two-hand tackling, or if they spin on my one arm and I'm reaching for the ball, I get behind the neck a lot. So yeah, man, two-arm tackling, bring it. That might give me a better chance on defense.
And you know what? I think it gives advantage to those like people who just are at least trying to use their sports IQ in whatever way. Like if like Hailey, you're a lot smaller than like me. I'm 6'3", and like you're what, something?
Like 5'2".
5'2", right? Like if you went like one arm against me, I'd be pretty hard pressed to like bet on you most of the time.
Oh but, yeah, I wouldn't bet on me, Brian.
Yeah,
okay.
But like given two arms, the chances of like you rather slowing me down, finding a way to like basically kind of wrap me up so that I can't move properly and my broom falls out, or I'm in a position where I'm just an easy target for a beater, like it's a whole new aspect that like you got to think about, and it's not just as simple as like, oh, I can smack someone twice as hard and bring it, like, okay.
Yeah, no.
I've got red carded before for that in MLQ, but that's a whole other thing. But like it's a whole new thing. Like it's completely different, and it's great. I love the innovation.
Yeah, personally, I prefer it. It was hard going back to one-arm tackling after that season.
Yeah.
And then that's where I got a couple of cards, because it was a couple of warnings before the cards, but it was like, can't do that, it's two hands. I'm like, but it's so much easier. I can actually do something. Yeah.
Well, that's good, though, because you guys are obviously the cream of the crop players that would initiate this into the game properly. If QC adapts two-arm tackling, then you're the perfect spokespeople for that. I think that from a defensive standpoint, if it makes it easier for the defense to stop some rushes, so be it. But that'll only allow the offense to try to come up with better solutions to move the ball around and keep matriculating the quaffle down the field and new beater play. So I think it's a whole element of strategizing that goes into both ends of the ball, offense and defense.
It definitely prevents like hero runs or like giving it to like your biggest guy and having them run down the field. It definitely encourages you to pass around more, kind of come up with more play. Sorry, Brian.
See, guys, I think I'm done.
It makes you think more because you have to consider, well, I might actually get tackled. So where are my teammates, and how is our positioning, and do I have somebody to pass it to? It makes the game more interesting because then people are not just watching somebody. Sorry, Brian, drive down.
I'm working on it. You know what? I've gotten better, but the old reliable is taking a hit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like, the big one is just like the stopping the fast break on there. Like, if you watch like the MLQ final with Boston and like Austin, like some of like the fast breaks, like I would say like over half of them are like easily like tackled and like stopped because they're able to tackle with 2 arms. And I think that like you have to, like you said, you have to adapt your game because you can't just run to a tackle. Because I tried, and like the Americans are really good tacklers, so like you're running into a 2-arm tackle, you're getting taken down 9 times, and even me, like it's not just
like Boston, Boston playing against like Teddy Costa and Brian Mulcahy, like those 2 guys, like I have size on both of them easily. I probably have strength, although they're both like in great shape. It's the whole me and Hailey situation. I wouldn't bet on me in that situation. Like those guys are absolute monsters, and like they're almost. It's a whole like thing of like, and I know in basketball it's a thing, but like you have your individual defense and your team defense, and like your individual defense is like what you're physically doing, and your team defense is like how you're setting up and positioning yourself as a group, right? But like when you have someone with that much skill, that individual defense is making the team defense that much more difficult because that like people like will go up against them and be like, I'm avoiding that. Like I'm gonna go around another way. So yeah, like it's a really like crazy thing, but it's there. Like it's I don't know how to put it into words.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is that like we talked about how like the Americans are so good at passing, and I think it's just because they've adapted to like that the 2-arm tackling and having to like be able to pass around. I think that's why when like Black Bears like before the Raiders were with the Raiders around, like the Black Bears struggled with the passing game because we didn't have to necessarily always rely on that because we had the ability to like drive because you could drive into a 1-arm tackle. So it kind of exposed our passing ability overall. Like obviously we had some good passes, but like in terms of just like the crispness of passing versus like what you see with like Boston and some like the top MLQ like American teams, like it's if they've learned to adapt to a 2-arm tackling, they're not going to just run straight at you into a 2-arm tackle. They're going to pass away around and then find that open shot. So I think that's part of how we're going to develop the passing game in Canada. Like that's always an interesting discussion, but that's cool. I think we will move into, for time's sake, we'll move into the chill vibes only segments, what we call it. Shout out to Ottawa Otters. So we'll do one round of the QC money game. So for those that aren't familiar, the 3 of us put together a sort of like a Excel spreadsheet, which has like a bunch of names. So it's inspired from, again, MLQ, where they had a list of MLQ athletes and they had them associated with a certain dollar value. And the original proposal was you have $18 and you have to create one line, and our sort of proposal is going to be in-game quaffle play. So assume it's like the game's already started, so it's not brooms up, but we're just like you're trying to just play regular quidditch, but like snitch on pitch or anything like that. And then we try to do a quick disclaimer, like obviously all East buy it, like we play in the East, so we're biased for the East. We tried our best to include as many people from the West, and also realize that we don't necessarily watch the West Quidditch all the time, so we tried to get some of those top names in there. So that's one thing we wanted to say. Also, the other thing we wanted to say too is just because someone's lower on the list doesn't necessarily mean that they're like bad. Like it just means that like they're more value. So like the way I was trying to explain it was like in hockey, so you have like entry level contract. Like it's kind of like those like up and coming rookies or players that are like get more value for in the lower end to try to compensate for the only having $18 to make your line. So that's something we wanted to throw out there so no one got like any freaked out.
Yeah, it's a mix of both skill and experience, right? Like if you've played at the top levels and you've been to international tournaments a lot, that value is there because it's shown like in experience. But someone who's maybe a little bit younger, like a rookie, and really hasn't had the chance to show that by no means means that they're like 5 times less value or whatever. It just means that like they don't have that resume of experience yet. But yeah. Let's get started. I love this.
For sure. Yeah. So who wants to go first? We'll do like I said. We'll do the one $18, one line of in-game quaffle play. Gender rules apply. Let's hear what you guys got.
Well, first off, why don't you guys put yourselves on this list here, eh?
No. We are not fans of brown nosing. We do not support that. We want honest opinions on this podcast.
Man, you can get me for $0 if you want free.
Well, had I known that, I would have added you to the list, Nathan. For cheap.
Yeah, the 5 of us would make quite a line, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we're all national champions, are we not?
Who's gonna be? Yeah.
Yeah. Put that on the resume. Yapster, do you want to kick it off?
Okay, I had fun with this, and it was really hard. So I was on my Word document, and I was typing up all these different options, and I was like, man, this sucks. So one of my options, my beater partners would be Shaggy and Heather. Mm-hmm. And then my keeper would be Cody. And my chasers would be Lydia, John, and Darren.
Is there a reason why you picked that scrub named John Nicholson?
He was in the 3-level value.
Oh, okay.
Mid-tier.
Very good. That's awesome.
Did that check out to?
Yeah. Math guy here checks out $18. You're all good. That's my job on this second.
That's fantastic. Yeah, like I've played Quidditch for so many years, but everyone who knows me, having played with me, know I'm not like the friendliest guy to other opponents, you know? So I don't really know a lot of people on this list. I'm a bit of an asshole like that. Mind you, I did try to think outside the box here and use my money wisely. So as beater partners, 2 cherished teammates of mine over the years, Devin Dutt and Sam McCall. A little cool $7 between the 2 of them there. Yeah, we got a fantastic left-handed thrower in Devin Dutt, and then Sam's very smart with kind of being aware on the pitch. She'll cover up that conservative play whenever Devin's ball gets tossed out of pitch. For a keeper, I mean, the first person you see on the list is Andrew Custers. I've played with him for 5 out of the past 7 years. We both started our careers together at Queen's in 2013, and he's been a good friend of mine for many, many moons. And then Yapster, I did pick you in my team here. You know, like you know how to move the field. You're very good with or without the quaffle. Defense, you can stack up with anyone there. So I have you on a chaser line with Darren Bell and Cameron Powers. Now those guys are steals at a loony apiece. Darren Bell, that guy's a truck. He can bounce off anyone. New guy. I know he played with the Trash Pandas last year, and his career is only going to keep taking off. And Cameron Powers, he's speedy as well. Like he can be that good wing chaser, even cover the point at first and kind of transition some loose balls around. And Custers, of course, is just going to drive and kick as much as he pleases. He's one of the finest in the nation. So was that $18?
Let's see.
Yeah, you're at 18. You're all good. Yeah. You're all good. Math checks out.
That was a solid team. Very solid team.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do one, or do you guys want to move into?
So I have one. I have 2, but like one I'm saving for the next one. Okay. I'll give Yhap and Beda. Do you want option 1 or option 2?
Beda, what are you feeling?
Oh man, too much pressure.
Option 3.
How do you feel about 2, Hailey?
2 sounds solid. Let's go with that one.
Okay, so option 2 was something I promised from our last recording. And we included like $18 for regular, like before Snitch comes on. And it was like $21 for after to include a Seeker. And I had this like stupid idea last time of just literally spelling out my name with players, and it ended up working, and it was actually pretty good. Instead, what I decided to do this time was go for an all-Seeker line. So literally every player on this line is a capable seeker, and we could sub them in to seek if need be. So I did John Keats for 3, Indiana Nickel for 4 at Chaser, Emily Naftel for 1, a nice value pick there, Savannah Campbell for 3, Michael Gomes for 2, Ethan Peters for 5, and Zoe Masalato for 2. That's $20. I have $1 to spare. All seeker line. I will see you at the next TC practice or wherever the heck I can see you, because I would love to see that be a thing, just for pure chaos.
Oh my gosh,
that's great.
Yeah, that's on my Hall of Fame list of teams now.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll finish up here with one of the questions. Because last week the last podcast we didn't get to do it, and Cody and Mo were kind of sad about it, but we'll do it with you guys. So we have the list there. I know I said pick 3, but we'll do 1. So we'll do the first one. Top 3 Quidditch games you've ever been part of. I don't know if you guys had a chance to come up with some questions or some picks there.
Yeah, well, I thought about it a little bit. I had to think about all the tournaments and all the games and how much of an impact they didn't have. They had, not necessarily just for myself, but for the team and the sport in general. I mean, selfishly, I'm just going to say my favorite I've ever played was the national championship game against Calgary in 2018 with Valhalla. That was at the Tim Hortons Field where the Ticats play in Hamilton 2 years ago. Just say there's no feeling like it. Like, as I said earlier, we've all won a national championship, and when you hear that whistle blow and the snitch is caught, and you know that the season's over and you're victorious, there's no greater feeling than all the work you put in. And that season there, we had a very thrilling season from start to finish. We only lost 1 match throughout the duration of the year, so that was really privileged to be a part of that. That was my first year with Valhalla as well, and
you're welcome.
I was able to team up quite a bit with Katana in that game as well. So it was a good game for the team as well as myself. A couple other games. My 3rd year with Queens. So Nate, this would have been your first year and Hailey's second. We had a couple great games. The last game we ever played of that season was a consolation against you, Brian.
Yeah.
And Guelph, and that one went 45 minutes. I remember watching the footage of that when it first came out. I couldn't believe how back and forth it was.
Big Matt destroyed my arm that year in that game, yeah. And I couldn't play baseball that summer because I couldn't rotate my arm past here, and I don't know what happened. It was just I fell on it weird. He tackled me weird or something. I just remember oh, my arm doesn't work. Got back on, went back to hoops, tagged back in, and ran off and was someone else has got to go for a while because I can't do anything. I can't hold a ball. And that game lasted so long. So long.
Yeah, it really did. It went into a couple handicaps for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were up 20 and we caught. So it ended up being 50, but it was much closer than that led on for sure. Who was it that hit you?
Matt Askett.
Oh, yeah. It was a back and forth game, and some thrilling goals, thrilling saves, thrilling hits. So that was one of my favorites, just because that was a good way to bookend the season with a nice consolation win. And then a 3rd game, memorable game. This is much tougher. Maybe from that same season at the Eastern Regional Tournament in Montreal about a month and a half earlier. Queens, we upset Valhalla in a round robin game in overtime. I remember we were down 40 and we scored, and then 2 seconds later we caught to send to overtime, and then somehow we just went on a roll in overtime and caught again. I remember Mo and I had some great alley-oops to one another, and Yapster as well. And Danny Gearing, shout out Danny Gearing, underrated player. So that was a great game as well, just because no one really expected it, except we were able to pull through. And then we lost and came 7th, as we usually do.
But never get past 5th place.
Yeah, that's right.
5th is our place. Wow, you guys have a way better memory than me, obviously. So my games are probably going to be more recent, just because I play a game and I kind of forget about it. So I would say top one would be last year, so 2019 at Nationals, and it was Otters versus Valhalla, and it was the game going into the gold medal game. That was a really tough game, lots of emotions everywhere on both sides, but it was super fun and very aggressive, very competitive, great level of playing. So really had fun. That was enjoyable. Second one I would say would be Queens versus Guelph, which always happens, but I think it was in my 4th year. That was the year that I died.
Was that the game where I destroyed you and I have a loop of it on my phone
my
somewhere?
goal never counted for that pass that you made to me right before you got.
I know, that was upsetting that it didn't count because everybody was watching as I died and they weren't watching you.
I felt so bad, although I launched you back like 6-7 feet, I think, from that hit. Like I just remember like watching it back and it was just like.
Oh, the worst part was apparently my family was watching.
Oh my god.
The footage was bad, so like it was kind of blurry because you couldn't see. And so later, my mom figured out that it was me because I had to message her, and she was like, "Wait, that was you?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's okay. We're all good. Don't worry." So that was fun time. God. She's like, "Yeah, this is why I don't like to watch you play." I'm like, "You know, it's cool. Sometimes it happens." So that was still, even though I didn't get to finish out the game, it was still like a really good, hard, close, tight game for us. I think that was one when we went into overtime, but I don't really remember.
No, it was like 10 or 20 difference. I think you guys were up 20 and then we caught. But like that was another one of the like Queens Guelph just absolute slug matches. Like it just kept going and going and going, and we're like by the end of it, like the handshake line was barely a thing because we were all just like ready to fall on the floor in class.
On the sidelines dying.
That gave me nightmares.
Yeah, it was bad. Gabe ran me over a couple times in that game. Like
But that was one of the top ones. We've had a lot of like head to head with Guelph, but that was a really strong and well played on both sides. Like passing, everything, just all around really good. And then my last one would probably be more recently from this past season. We were in Guelph, and it was Carleton versus Waterloo. So probably not memorable for most people, but I really had a fun time. It was our first game of the day, and the funniest part was both team captains were late, so they both didn't get to play in the game. So sorry, Emily Nachtel, and sorry to Waterloo captain. I'm not sure what your name is.
Alyssa, I think. Yeah, I think it was Alyssa. Yeah. Yeah,
so they both ended up agreeing, or I think Atana was doing the coin toss or whatever. Like, so yeah, if you're both kind of late, like I guess you're both not playing. So that happened. But it was a really like well fought game, super aggressive, super competitive, really fun. And I got to be more of like the quarterback for that one, so that was enjoyable. A change of position is always nice. So it was a really fun game, you know. Yeah. Those would probably be my 3 that I can remember.
Nice.
Awesome. I don't know if you guys do you guys want to do maybe one of us do our top 3 before we wrap up, or do you guys want to just wrap it up?
Honestly, some of my games roll within that, so I don't have much to add.
A lot of overlap.
Yeah, I would say the only one I throw in there, I would say I had 2 of the same ones that Yhap had, would be the Black Bears game 3 against Washington, where we qualified for MLQ Championship weekend. That was insane. I remember that game because I got a red card in that game for a silly mistake on my part, but it was crazy. And then I think NAFTA caught the snitch. We won, and like I just remember going absolutely insane. And like I didn't get to go to the championship weekend, which kind of sucked. But no, it was like unbelievable. Like everyone like every year we like Blackbirds always gets written off because like we're the Canadian team and like oh yeah, like they're just kind of like the sweethearts, and like just winning was just like unbelievable to or at least like, qualify for the championship weekend. It was really cool.
It's like it's on TV. It's like the Canadian Heritage Moments. Like that's Quidditch Canada Heritage Moment right there.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was awesome. But so I guess we'll wrap up here then. We just want to thank you guys so much for coming on. I hope you guys had a little bit of fun with that chill vibe segment and just kind of enjoy talking about the athletic side of the game. Do you guys have any questions for us before we wrap up?
Hey, not at all, but thank you so much for having me. It was a nice hour of discussion, and it's such a great idea that what you 3 are doing here while we're all quarantined.
Yeah,
more of that stuff, more chill vibes. Love it.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was lots of fun, and good luck, Brian, with all the uploading.
Oh, my internet speed is brutal already, so can't wait.
All right, awesome. Well, stay tuned, listeners, for our part 2. we're going to wrap this one up. But thanks again so much, guys, for coming on, and we'll see you guys around hopefully soon. Stay safe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to keep our recording going just because if I cut it, then it's going to take forever to extract. But
Gotcha.
Okay.
great job. Good time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Good discussion.
I went by pretty fast.
Yeah, that went by
Pretty
fast.
fast.
It did. It sparked so many like side stories in my head as we were talking.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I think
That
it's
was the
also
problem.
because we've all played together at one point or another, so it's very like,
I've played with every single one of you guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, you're filming another one right now, then, eh?
Yep. I'm going to grab
Yeah.
Calder. And then Nate or Gabe, can you guys message, was it Matt Marilis?
Yeah, I'll send the link there.
Come on, internet speed. Yeah, my brother and mom are still working from home right now, so like, yeah, I just got to make sure I'm not not uploading during work hours. That's the concern I think right now.
Fair enough. Nate, where are you at right now?
In Ottawa. I got back on Friday.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
But yeah, I was in Toronto for like a good month when the school was closed before coming down. Or coming up, I should say.
That's fair. Because you still had work to do and stuff, because they were saying you have an exam tomorrow.
Yeah, I have an exam. 40% tomorrow. Then I have a couple others early next week. But basically all my exams are open, but I don't have to worry about like, studying like
Crazy.
excessively, but still want to review stuff to know the information.
Nice. Gabe, are you back home or are you still in Kingston?